Thanks for checking out the Abnormal Japan podcast. We're based in Tokyo, Japan from Houston, Texas. If you're curious what it's like living here, or you just want to tap in for abnormal topics from time to time, stay tuned and follow us on your favorite listening platform. Hey everyone, I'm your host Bree. Thanks for tuning in. Last episode we discussed how our life was before moving to Japan. Check it out if you haven't already. As always, I'm here with my co-host.
I am the cinnamon bun in the morning. I am the hot curry at night. I'm Ashish. What's up?
Hey, that was good.
I'm trying to condense, I'm trying to condense.
I wonder how long you can keep this up. You have a different intro every time.
It's a lot of work. Sometimes I feel like it's more than the show notes because I could halt a whole episode. We could just do a whole episode where I just reintroduce myself for an hour. So if y'all want a bonus episode or something.
Oh my gosh. See how long you can go.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be cool.
All right, so today we have another special guest joining us, and I hope y'all enjoy this chat with our friend. Quick disclaimer, we had some audio issues, but nonetheless the conversation was great. So we'd like to welcome Jeannette, aka Spiffy, a university student, multifaceted content creator, and a beautiful friend we made during her stay in Japan.
All right, let's get into it. In your Instagram bio, it says you're a fashion fanatic and part-time cosplayer. So what got you into, I guess, like the alternative fashion and cosplay and stuff like that? Like what was your, I guess, jumping off point?
So as every Black girl who's into J fashion at all right now and was born in the 90s is probably going to say Gothic Lolita was the hotness when I was in high school for absolutely no reason. I didn't wear dresses like that. J fashion, and this is, so I'm going to make a crazy statement and then bring it all back. J fashion
All right, let's go.
has probably made my mother more proud of me in my late teens to late 20s than regular fashion did any other time in my life. Reason being, my family's Jamaican. My mother's father he's now a pastor. He was a deacon for a while. He got ordained. My father is a deacon. His brother is a deacon. Traditional Christian Jamaican values. I was not allowed to wear pants until I was like 12. The only time I was allowed to wear pants was for gym class or if a field trip required us to wear pants. I remember going on like hay rides. I live in New England, hay rides in fall, and hay would stick me because my father was like, you don't need to wear pants because this is not gym. And I would just be in a skirt all the time. And in middle school, what made that change was we went on a trip to Cape Cod. Cape Cod, if you guys are not familiar with American geography, it's in Massachusetts. It's not Rhode Island. Pretty sure it's Massachusetts.
It's like a cape off the East Coast.
Yes. And a huge thing in at least New England is ecology. When we're younger, we have to learn a lot about our area of the biome because I guess we have a lot of things the rest of the country doesn't. So we got to learn about marshes, swamps, the difference between saltwater, freshwater, rivers, all these crazy landforms that had to do with water, which is actually pretty cool. We went there and the school, my teacher sent a letter home and was like, we respect everyone's religious affiliation. She cannot wear a skirt on this trip. She cannot. That cannot happen because she's going to be in swamps and in a marsh and I'm not taking her in a skirt. So something has to be done about that. That would have been bad. My one teacher was like, Jeannette, if you fall, what are we going to do? What are we going to, no, you need pants. So we went to Walmart and my parents got me the ugliest jeans because I was a chunky kid. I've been a chunky kid since I was like 9. So I was a chunky kid. They didn't even go to the plus size section. My parents played me. They took me to the women's section and bought the smaller woman's size of stretch waist mom jeans that were not flattering.
Damn.
I know that sounds great now because 2019 we all love the high waist. It wasn't cute. It was not cute like that. And they got me a black pair and a blue pair and I wore them on the trip, and when we came home, I wore those pants every day in middle school until eventually my mom was like, "Listen, she's wearing pants now. I guess we're getting pants." And my father was not with it, but mom was
Mhm.
like, what's what are you doing?
Mm.
Like, we
Like,
can't
what
do
you gonna
anything
do?
about it. So once I could wear pants, it was hard to get me back into skirts. I had a phase in middle school where I wanted to, because I'm from New England, I wanted to be like all the preppy kids, is what we called them at the time. So one winter we went to Old Navy and we got all these polos and stripes and solid colors. And I got some skirts
Oh
and I was just
man.
rocking that for a while. Then I got to high school and I was like, I want to be a goth. I had wanted to in middle school, did not have the means, and I did more in high school, but I was also self-conscious. There was just a lot going on with me in fashion. I just I was wearing giant t-shirts because at that point in life I was aware that my chest was large, but I was uncomfortable with it, so I just wore bigger shirts, which made everything just look bad. I didn't do my hair. I didn't know.
Mm.
When I look back at photos, I'm like, why did you guys talk to me? Because your personality is great. And I believe them because I saw those clothes, and I don't know if I would have tried to say hello because I looked wild. I looked
Damn.
absurd. And then some time passed after high school. I don't really know what happened in the beginning of college, but as time went on, I was just like, do I have a job? Let me just buy some clothes I want. And it was hard at first because plus size shopping for alternative clothes is wild. I thank every star every day that I did not have the money for Lolita stuff when I was younger because I would have made a mess. I would have bought random
Everything.
mismatching yes, everything at once with no sense. But
Right,
as time went
right.
on, I got to meet more and more people who were into it. I got to buy more items that were I met indie designers who do plus size stuff. So
Mhm.
I the first big pieces that I had were things that were made in my size by someone who makes plus size stuff online.
Oh, cool.
Etsy and Instagram were huge helps because people would just post their shops.
Etsy's so good for handmade stuff because these companies don't be making stuff for different sizes, curvatures.
Mhm.
They
It's wild.
have one block mannequin and they just I was telling my sister Fashion Nova just makes everything bigger. If something isn't plus size on Fashion Nova, they just go make it wider.
Yeah.
Not longer too? No, just wider. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're all whatever height the
Yeah.
mannequin is.
When I think about what you're saying, like with the mannequins and stuff, so I got story style. I talk about like, oh, I try to talk about inclusive fashion for like, all genders and expressions and body types and stuff like that.
Yes.
Um, it's so weird to see how the fashion world is moving. Like you said, Fashion Nova, they always have plus size something. They always have like something going on in that realm.
It's
But
true, it's true. Even if it's not, but they make an effort.
Yeah, but I kind of want to know, like you were talking about how you would meet different people and you would like meet like indie like fashion designers essentially. Like from your experience, how do you like get inspirations for a look or for a style or for a cosplay? Like,
So back then, it was just uh, I feel like cartoons really did it back then. If you look at any old like 2000s or 90s cartoons that had more than 3 girls in it, someone was probably a goth girl unless the cartoon itself was dark, then everyone was a goth girl. Uh, if that wasn't the case, there would be a special where there was like there's always a weird girl. There's always a manic pixie dream girl in something. There's always the weird geeky girl who takes off her glasses and suddenly she's pretty. There's always that
yeah,
weird trope, but there's always cool fashion that goes along with it. Scooby Doo, the Hex Girls were like life because they were 3 different types of goth. Listen,
Yeah.
that was life, and I had a bunch of friends who didn't want to admit it. And then when you bring it up, it's that moment in high school where you start bringing up old stuff from before you guys all talked, and everyone's like, "Oh, I have that memory." Yes, because it's great. Sam from Danny Phantom,
mm,
there's so
Yes.
many. Lydia from Beetlejuice, it wasn't her clothes, it was just the fact that she existed that way around people. The entirety of Winx Club, because it didn't matter what you liked, there was a Winx fairy for everybody. There was the hip hop,
Yes.
there was the kind of Maury K traditional woodsy fairy, there was the princessy meets baby spice fairy, and then there were the witches who were all goth but different kinds of color schemes and all this crazy stuff. So that was one. Music also inspired me a lot. A lot of because dubstep happened, but before dubstep and around dubstep, there was the DDR days, the Eurobeat and those
yeah,
Yeah.
things. The aesthetics of those were all over the place, but they were really cool. Even 90s. Now it's weird. A lot of 90s stuff and stuff from my childhood, not teenhood, inspire me. a lot of the Y2K fashion, a lot of the 90s fashion, the Spice Girls as a whole, Britney Spears, everything she did. And it's not just me, it's coming back in mainstream fashion too. Like Ariana Grande is now what Britney Spears was then, with a lot of what
Definitely.
the visual is. Now that I have more of my both feet in the door of alternative fashion, it's kind of other people. So it used to be just
Mm,
cartoons and color schemes that I liked, or movies. Now it's kind of a fusion of both. Like if I'm in a mood, if I'm in a certain vibe, certain parts of my wardrobe come out. So because of October, that's usually the time when dark stuff comes out, although it's hard because I'll have pastel stuff that I want. Spring for sure, around Easter, it's Pastel City, but sometimes it's just random things. Once a year, I'll get the urge to watch like Blade and Underworld. So everything that I have that is black
Ooh.
and probably a blue hue is just out there. Sometimes, when Luke Cage came out, because of the music and just like the fusion of 70s and now, I didn't want my braids. I just wanted my afro puffs out with any look, and I built that into what I was doing. It's so I guess now it's people or it's moods versus cartoons or
mm,
films. It used to be things that were more, I don't want to say mass produced because I don't want to sound hipster, but like things that were made versus people. I have a lot of things in my wardrobe. I have tons of pastel. I have tons of dark things. I have lacy things. I have leather things. I have cosplay things. I have general kind of nerdy otaku type stuff. Like I have cat ears. I have seifuku. Yeah. So I have things that I can put in, and then I'll see someone and it's like, huh, is that person wearing a blue seifuku top with a pink skirt and half their hair is pink and half their hair is blue? I got you. Because I have those things, and I have things that I can do similar things with. So it might not be that, but it might be like purple and green, or it might just be a seifuku with cat ears. I can do this. And kind of like at this point it's kind of using what I have because I need to stop buying things. It's hard to, but I need to stop buying things. I'm inspired, I guess, by what I've already done and what other people are working with.
That's a really cool answer. I appreciate that because, like, it's so interesting. You mentioned like all the places you've been. You said Florida. I'm sure that has a totally different vibe than like.
Man, I can talk about Florida, but that's whew.
So what I want to know is, since you picked up all this fashion and it's like part of you and you have all this fun with it, how was that when you came to Japan? Like, did you feel different? Did you feel like you can express more, express less? Like, how was it for you?
It's in terms of wanting to express. Um, I didn't feel any different. At this point, it's kind of become who I am. I've turned a lot of my body into part of the fashion. So my hair can jump back and
Okay.
forth. Like right now there's no color in it, but I can braid any color I want into it. I got my ears pierced, I have my nose pierced, I have my tongue pierced. I can switch from hoops to studs if I don't want them to be as prominent. So there's always kind of like a base level of presenting. um
Mm,
it's being there at first, I didn't feel any different, I guess, than America. People looked at me a lot, and that did affect how I wanted to
mm,
dress. Excuse me. So I that
okay.
hiccup came out of nowhere. um Harajuku was obviously, I was upset that I didn't dress up more while there, because of course everyone is doing the most there,
Mm,
and I didn't do the most the few times I
Yeah.
got to go. I did some, not the most, so I need to go back and show out. But outside of spaces like that, Japan is so drastically different from America that even the very subtle things I do are intense there. So it made me want to do them less. Like I packed mainly my pastel t-shirts and things like that, or my white skirts and things like that. They're regular pleated skirts, they're regular t-shirts, but they're
mhm.
pastel pink and pastel blue. And I didn't recognize until I went to school, Japanese people don't casually wear pastel colors like that. Everyone was constantly wearing black,
Yes.
white, red, olive green, and brown.
Yes, that's the palette. It's very muted. I'm glad to hear that you had a similar experience because I actually dress more, I guess you would say, boring now, just because I'm so tired of, I don't know, just people being in my space and like kind of just the microaggressions and attacking, because I live out in the suburbs where there's like a lot of elders.
Right.
It's a lot. Anything subtle, even if it's like a different color palette or your hair is
It'll
different.
be the same
Yeah.
clothes, the same exact clothes, but they're pink, and everyone's like, "Wait a minute." And I'm like, "What?
Mhm.
Wait a where?" Like, what's going My hair I knew was gonna be a thing, but clothes is what threw me off. Even with my hair, there was never a time where my hair didn't cause trouble, actually. There was 0 time
Mm.
because there was my braids, I had either blue or purple box braids depending on when I was
Mm.
there, but then I had Afro puffs, and people did not know
Yes.
what was happening with my hair, and I was like, "This is
Yeah.
a lot." So the most I could do is braid it down, kind of, like, without any extensions. I braid it down and put them in little buns, but even then, just my hair was not like their hair, and so
Mm.
that confused not just Japanese people, but I went to an international school, so there were other foreign students. Either they knew exactly what was happening or they were just like, "That's crazy." And I'm like, "Okay, we're in class. We can't do this. We're in class."
It's like, calm down. Yeah. So with that, what would be like the most difficult adjustment when you got here?
So I lived in Saitama Prefecture. I lived in a
Mm.
town called Kawagoe. Kawagoe, while I guess not super rural, was rural enough to have a paddy field
Oh shit.
near the school. Yeah. Yeah. So there were city parts, but there was rice
It was
paddy
out there.
space near the dorms. So it was kind of a mix between the two. It was a pretty place for sure. It was nice to be able to walk around for the most part in the city part and not feel in danger. I think what was the most difficult,
Mhm.
being a girl in a place where being a girl is usually not synonymous with being aggressive or being assertive, I guess is the better word. Um, there were a lot of people who, as I started to get to they thought I was really interesting, like, "Oh, she's so," they'd say fashionable because clothes, but they'd also be like, "Oh, her personality, she's so brave." Bravery was a concept, and I was like, "That's crazy," because I am so afraid of life. Like, I don't think I'm the most brave person I know. I know several. I think I'm in the middle. I think the only people who make me in the middle, like medium fear, are people who don't leave their house. But I wouldn't call myself brave. I think in the scape of things, it was like, she's a girl who dresses how she wants, and she will tell boys, "Stop it," aggressively.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't how is that to me, being my major socialization is America and then Jamaica. So it's just loud and louder. So it's like, I don't have, not to say there aren't gender-based stipulations I've had to grow up with, especially being Jamaican, but not like that, not to the point where, I don't know, there were times where not so great things happened and people were not safe, and it was like the police didn't care because we were girls, and it was like, "What?"
Yeah, it's like that
And
here.
we were the idea that other foreign girls, not just me, would say, um will we get punished for defending ourselves, and for people to not know how to answer, not because they don't want to tell us fight back, but because they are not used to a girl or a woman saying they are interested in fighting back. They're like, "Don't you want to run?" No. Like, I'm not. No, I don't. Why would I run?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, I grew up with all the things that I've been through in America. I grew up and kind of trained myself to stop wanting to run from everything,
Mm-hmm.
just to go to a place where it is strange to people to not want to run. So I
Mhm.
think that was my hardest adjustment, is being a girl and trying to interact with people, especially men, and
Mhm.
them being weirded out that I was talking to them.
Mhm.
That, and like like, I get being black there, I guess it's an adjustment, but it's one I expected a little more. Like,
Okay.
I've been to China, I've been to Japan before this semester. So I know a lot of people in Japan especially were either cool or were terrifying, or both at the same time, but it's definitely one or the other.
Yeah.
Like, the media that black people produce is popular, it's well liked, but then actual black people are scary and or mysterious. So then scary becomes
That's
mysterious.
the weirdest thing that I noticed in Asia actually, is that they love Black culture. But as soon as like you actually face them, they're just like, wait, this is a scary experience. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were afraid of me because I saw there people on the train would wear things like Kendrick Lamar t-shirts and but be scared of myself or Jackie. Jackie's another friend of mine that
Yeah.
we all hung out with in Japan. Jackie and I were both chunky, short, brown girls. And one day I looked at Jackie and I was like, I don't know why he's wearing that Kendrick Lamar shirt because Kendrick Lamar is bigger and scarier than I am. So
Mhm.
like
And
if
he's not
I'm
even that
scary,
tall. Like, I don't know. If Kendrick came up to me, I'd be like, I could see his head top. So
He could be
yeah, but like
yeah.
if I'm scary, they listen to people like 2 Chainz and I'm like, y'all don't want that. You don't want any part. If I'm
and
scary, like
and the
oh my
funniest thing
god.
is that like they'll have the shirt, but if like let's say that like Two Chains is right next to them on the train, they would be freaking out and they wouldn't even
they
know
would
it's Two
be on
Chains.
the other side of
Yeah.
the train
Man.
car.
All right, so now I want to talk about some funny reactions, from Japanese people to foreign peoples. I'm sure we all have stories. The Two Chains thing killed me because I was just thinking, like, if I saw Two Chains, I'd be like, whoa, and then he probably wouldn't even fit in the train. Like, oh
I know,
man,
super tall.
He'd be ducking.
yes, basically. So like, okay, so what are some like funny stories or reactions that people have had just in passing or in general? I'm open the floor to y'all because I have like one in mind, but what y'all think? What y'all stories? What y'all got?
I was in Shibuya with a man that y'all have met who I am no longer friends with. This man, for those listening, is also a black boy, but he is light skinned
Mm.
and that does make a difference when you are in East Asia. People might be skeptical, but less skeptical because it's like, oh, a less scary one is here. He also has dreads, and I had box braids. And we were just walking through there, and this lady came up to the both of us and shook our hands.
What?
Excuse
A
me?
grown woman, by the way. She was not 30. She was old. She was someone's aunt. Someone's aunt
Someone.
came up to me and this man who she did not know and were shaking our hands. And then she grabbed a fistful of my hair.
Oh
Oh,
no.
She didn't yank it, but she just grabbed it and just was so excited and was like, yes, and like thumbs up. And
what?
I couldn't react fast enough because she shook my hand first. She looked like she worked somewhere. This all sounds vague. When I say she worked somewhere, she didn't look like she was wearing t-shirts and jeans. She was wearing like office clothes. She looked like
Mm.
someone's aunt. She looked like someone's aunt who worked at like on call somewhere,
Mm.
and she looked
Yeah.
like a regular grown adult who wouldn't do silliness, and then shook our hands, and I was like, this is already strange, and then like touched my hair, and I was just like, I know you guys don't do this to each other. I know Japanese culture does not
Oh
invite
no,
all of
they
you
don't.
to grab each other's hair.
Yeah, they don't like touch each other at all. Like they avoid each other as much as possible, unless they're like kids and they're
Yeah, I was about to say the most I could think of is like maybe at most high school students will be like all kinds of like touchy and friendly with each
To
other, but
each other, but that's kid,
yeah,
like that's high school
but
kids
after
yeah.
everywhere.
that, that's that
Yeah, and
there's
they're
a personal
friends.
space.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
friends too. So, but that is wild. But I'm also will say I'm not surprised. Like I've had to duck anytime my hair is like out and curly and not
Mm-hmm.
braids or anything. They're just like,
The
oh, like,
curls.
I can just feel like a hand getting close to me, like on the bus, or like they don't control their kids either.
Nah, kids are the
Mm,
worst.
No, kids, I feel like it's almost because they are aware it's crazy if they do it, but if children do it, what are you gonna do? Yell at the baby? And
I
it's
mean,
like, right? I was gonna say bold of you to assume that I won't be besides.
oh
The
shit.
hair
yeah.
thing, the hair thing will happen. A funny story about Jackie. Jackie and I were
Mhm.
leaving the grocery store. This is back in Kawagoe, so not Tokyo. Staring does happen in Tokyo, not nearly as much in Kawagoe. I will say before continuing
Yeah.
on, my experience with staring in Kawagoe and Saitama in general, I know for fact I was being stared at because I was black. In Tokyo,
Mm.
Mm.
a lot of the time in both visits, I was being stared at because I had weird hair. Because black people do
Okay.
exist in Tokyo. Not to say no one's staring at me because I'm black, but not like that. It's not alarming. especially as you get closer to like Ginza or Roppongi. They're like, okay, another one. Like, we know who you are. It's my hair. My hair. They're like, wait a minute. Is your hair blue? The first time I came, it was like a unicorn candy pastel mix color, and people were like, what's happening? So in Tokyo, it's less pressing. In Saitama, this man, we were all everyone is walking home because that's what we do in Saitama. People don't have cars like that. In Japan in general, people don't have cars, but like people
Right.
really don't have
True.
cars in Saitama. So everything's chill. We're walking with our groceries. This man keeps turning back to look at us, but it's been like 5 times now. So now we know he's
Oh,
not looking for a friend. Now we know he actively knows we're there. Now we know he's just watching us, but has to walk forward. So he has to keep turning back. At one
Mm.
point, he lives in this house that I called the jungle house. There were just tons of plants out front, and it was a long driveway. He turned in and just stood in the driveway but had his back to us. And in my head, I'm like, this man can't possibly think we can't see him because he's tall. He's at least
Yeah.
5'11". This is a tall man in Japan.
Oh
Everyone can
wow.
see him here. Yeah. And he just stands there and then turns back. And while we are passing the driveway and he turns to look at us, Jackie just takes a deep breath and goes, Nani? Nan desu ka? And jumps.
dang.
The man jumps and double takes, like, wait a minute. And then we kept
Wait,
looking, and then he hurried off into his house. And I laughed
what?
for
He just
days.
stood there waiting with his back to y'all. That's the creepy part. Like,
That felt like a Sadako
ugh.
don't
Oh
fire in the dark.
no.
That when he just had his back, I was like, no, because this is how
No.
the horror manga starts. Your back can see
Right.
Exactly.
us.
And standing out still like that? Oh
Just
Mm-mm.
standing
no.
with because he's holding grocery bags, so he's just back to us, grocery bags in hand, holding still, turns to us, Nani, oh, and just runs. I'm like, please run.
Please, yeah, run
Oh
away,
my
please.
god, that's so freaky.
That's like funny and scary as fuck.
Yeah. Oh man, I had one where I was on the train, and I think we were going somewhere. It wasn't too far,
Mm.
so I was like, "All right, we're just gonna stand. Whatever. It's no biggie." And so I was standing, and I was leaning against like the door hand railing thing. You know what I'm saying? There's like a little bench, and then there's a wall
Yeah.
from the bench. I was leaning against the bench, just sitting behind me. And so I look down at my phone. I was like on Twitter or something, and then I look up and I see this dude on the other side of the cart, and he's just looking at me through he's holding the rail, so
No.
he's looking at me over his bicep. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So I look back down at my phone, and then I'm like, let me see. I put my phone up, and I look back up. He's still looking at me,
No.
and now he's not like a bodybuilder. He's not really big in
Right.
general,
Mm.
and he thought his bicep was hiding his whole face.
Let me tell you. It's like they can't tell that they're staring. Like
Right.
they're like, "Oh, I'm
It's
invisible.
like
You can't
something
see me." Right?
overcomes, I don't know what it is. It's like when foreigners are involved, Japanese people seem to think Looney Tunes logic applies. I have had
Oh my
people
god, for
talk
real.
and then point at me so that 3 other friends can look. So I just start staring, and then they all get flustered and walk into each other and try to look busy elsewhere. And I'm just like, it's almost as if pointing at someone tells them that you're talking about them, sir and or madam and
Almost.
or anyone in between. Like, where
Yeah.
where does this work?
It's so noticeable.
It
Like
is.
for me, I think it happened at a grocery store. And we were just shopping. At this point, I'm like, y'all have to be used to us because we're literally the only foreigners in our like remote little neighborhood
Yeah.
Right,
area.
right.
Like we don't see anybody else. So we've kind of become like the face of foreigners here. They're
Mm.
like, oh, it's the foreigners again, right?
Yeah.
At this point, it's been like over a year. But as I was shopping, there's literal people like on the other side of the aisle. And they're kind of like playing peekaboo. Like they're just
Mm-mm.
like looking like, oh my God, it's a foreigner. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I notice I just like, oh, okay, what's up? And then as I'm going through different aisles, it's like they're trying to catch my attention, but then
What the
act
fuck?
like I can't see them. So it's so weird. And I'm not saying all Japanese people
No,
do this,
but
but it's very
it's
common
too common.
when you're so different. It's too common. We have to say something about it. It's just
Yeah.
like, y'all, we see you. We see you.
And like it's one thing for like children or
Right.
young people because I'm like, y'all just legit don't know. But if you're at least like 20 plus, I'm like, do you like, is there an etiquette school you need to go to? Like, what? Just don't stare at people. Like, what the heck?
I recommended to my school that for the following school year, they should probably have a quick assembly to tell the students how to interact with foreigners because they did that for us. They had an assembly to teach us how to interact with Japanese people and things to not be surprised by or offended by. And I'm like, you guys should probably give them one
Yeah,
too
for real.
because they're more stressed about us than we are about them. They are way more
Yeah,
stressed.
and sometimes it's unnerving because it's like I'm just chill. I'm not threatening at all. Like I'm literally like black light over here. I don't know what y'all are tripping about. Um,
For
and
real.
sometimes they don't even know I'm black, and that's understandable. I'm very ambiguous, but like as soon as they hear that I'm black, it's like a whole different vibe. They're like, oh wait, no, 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 we can't do this right now.
Right?
It's so weird, but definitely they often,
You're safe again when you're American though.
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
If they learn you're American black, they're like, "Oh, it's scary, but it's safe.
It's
It's
scary, but I
safer
like it.
than."
I've
Yeah.
heard the term Obama black,
Oh
and
my
it's
god.
safe for them,
Ay,
and it's so
ay, ay,
bad.
ay.
But the thing is,
Obama black.
the thing is so funny. Even if we say we're American, they don't believe us. They're
No,
like,
for real.
"No, no."
Oh my gosh. You have to be from Africa. I can't tell you how many times I have not been. I can't begin to word how not from Africa, like,
Yeah.
please. When they hear Jamaica, first of all, a lot of them don't know what Jamaica is, which is fine, I guess, because it's an island on the other side of the world that is very small.
Mm.
But like those of them who do know what Jamaica is, I don't know who did it. I don't know who started it. Japan really likes Jamaica, and I need them to relax just a small bit. We went to the Jamaican festival. There was a man. I bought a Jamaican flag from a man that I thought was black and Jamaican because he was very tan and he had dreads. It wasn't until that I
Oh.
asked him for a flag, he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Flag," and kept, "What?" And the what sounded like patois. Patois is the Jamaican English, as people call it. It's a Creole.
Yeah.
But he he was Japanese and he knows patois. He doesn't know English.
Wait
Oh.
a minute.
And I was just like, "How do you my friend. Like, how do you
What?
and so I had to ask him in Japanese for the flag, and so I bought the flag, and I realized his dreads were all just crazy extensions because I could see the root, the edge, that good lace
Oh.
on his scalp, and I was just like, "What's going on?" The man who was DJing was Japanese, but he could speak patois. He does not know English. He speaks patois, and then he was speaking Japanese in patois. There was a dance hall group. There was a lady, she's on one of my Instagram, like, highlights from Japan. This lady was my favorite at the whole event. She she was just jogging. She had her, like, compression arm and leg
Oh
socks
my god.
that the older people in Japan have. She jogged up to the event and then just started dance hall dancing, and I was like, "Well, I can't be here anymore because like,
Yeah.
I haven't brought anything to the table. Everyone else, this woman came here and showed out. She brought
Mhm.
her entire A game, and she Sean Paul wind up,
Oh shit.
and I she was I have to send you guys the video. She was killing the game, and I was just standing there like, I'm gonna eat this bland jerk chicken and be quiet. That was my only complaint. Japan does not like spice, so when they cook Jamaican food, it just makes me upset
Is it like really sweet?
because it doesn't taste like anything. They said jerk
Oh
chicken. It
shit.
just tasted like someone put chicken on fire
Like on
and
barbecue?
whispered someone whispered the word jerk to the chicken when they when they grilled it, and I was like, I saw the lady putting ketchup on people's chicken, and that's how I knew it wasn't for me.
Oh
Mm.
shit.
Like, some degree, it's admirable, but then it's like, where are the actual Jamaicans at? Like,
Right.
you
There's
know?
a YouTuber I love, he's called Pickles the Gaijin, he's Jamaican, but, like, from Jamaican, and he talks about this he's so fun. Something he said that I think it captures it perfectly. The problem is not that they like a thing, because I never want to be the person that comes in and goes, "Well, enjoying something is cultural appropriation." Enjoying it is not. It 100% is not disrespectful to enjoy a thing or like it. I also understand that when you are in a country that is homogenous, like it is
Mhm.
plus percent you and no one else, you are limited in how authentic you can be at a thing. So I'm not angry that it didn't taste like my grandmother in Jamaica's cooking,
Yeah.
but something he said that stuck with me. His problem is with the fact that when Japan likes something, when Japanese culture as a whole likes something, they try to assimilate it into being Japan as opposed
Mm.
to acknowledging that it is not from Japan. So
Mm.
when there's dance hall classes, there are all of these things like learn how to twerk, learn how to do
Oh my
different
god.
Jamaican dancing, but it's not by Jamaican people in Japan, which there are a lot of. Did not learn until I went there. It's a huge thing. There's a crazy passport program between Japan and Jamaica. But it's not a Jamaican person teaching it. It's a Japanese person who went to Jamaica, learned it, came back and is making money off what they learned, which again, I don't want to sit here and be like, if every restaurant and every boutique that has a word in it isn't done by the group that word comes from, I don't like it. I understand there's a limit, but there's little to no interest in the country it came from. It just becomes Japan's this. And they'll say it's Jamaican, but it's Japanese Jamaican.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with like any kind of like Hispanic culture. We have like a whole ass people trying to pretend to be Hispanic people out here.
There's like a chola
Yeah,
Yeah.
wave going on. It used to
yeah,
be B-gals. That was the hot thing where everyone tanned and wanted to be like black girls in 50 Cent music videos. And now
Yup.
it's cholas. And I'm
yes.
like, who's Googling this stuff and sending
I
emails to
know.
Japan? Like without the context.
Yeah, they run with it. Also with curry,
Oh my god, yeah.
stuff like
I'm
that.
not
It's
trying to disrespect anyone, but when I was in Japan, I made it a rule after the first time I had Japanese curry that the only curry I was going to eat was from my Sri Lankan classmates or other people from that part of Asia.
Oh no, for sure. Oh, I do want to mention one thing about schooling real quick before we go into the next topic, but would you complete a full ass degree in Japan from start to finish, like a new bachelor's essentially, or
Oh,
something like
never. No. Pardon. No. I could
that?
not. I I this trip opened my eyes to the education part of being in Japan. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, did you go there, with a dream and your anime happiness?" No, because I've been there before and I
that?
went as an adult, like an adult. So thankfully I did not go at age 15 where I would have gone to Akihabara and been like, "Yeah, this is what Japan's about." So I got a lot of that out of my system the first time. The reason why I would not complete a full 4-year degree in Japan is because I don't think I'd be able to. It is the way schooling is done there just is not for me. I was told a
Mm,
lot that Japan cares way more about your attendance than your performance. Not that you should underperform, but your attendance matters way more. I will not hide the fact that I am definitely one of those kids who stares at the syllabus to see how many classes I can miss before I miss my grade.
same.
Nah,
Because
straight up.
if I don't have to show up, I'm not showing up. Especially lecture-based classes, it doesn't matter. The only things where I think matters a lot more are math classes and, of course, language classes. You have to be there for language classes because you can't make it up, you have to be taught. But there are tons of
Yeah.
situations where it's just like, "Why am I coming in to sit for an hour and a half just so you can have me read the book out loud when I could read the book at home?" So that part would stress me. Some of the way the grading is done just doesn't make sense to me. Just Japan's schooling as a whole has always, I guess, had kind of a spooky vibe to it because when you grow up in America, if you grow up in America between like 95 and 2015, your knowledge of the Japanese school system is Americans tell you that they work super hard in school and anime tells you
Yeah.
Mhm.
that they show your grades publicly. Those are two things I'm not for. Like I don't need anyone knowing if I'm failing. And as far as going really hard in school, what I learned for college especially, it's more about getting into a good school and then not getting kicked out because at that point no one's checking your grades as much. They just want to see that your degree came from a prestigious university, which I guess it's kind of how it works in America, but I don't know, it just seems more business, which I guess it's Japan. It's more business like. It's just you're expected to go to a good
Yeah.
school and once you're in it, the kids don't care. And that definitely was apparent at my school. There were Instagram videos, no exaggeration, other Japanese classmates who are in the strictly Japanese classes, not the ones taught in English, they would do weird things on, oh, we're adults. This boy got up in the middle of class one day and pulled his pants down and had his friend record him on Instagram story with his business out, but they put like a block of text over it. And then this
Oh my
girl
god.
just sat at her table. They zoomed to her and they were like, "Opie, opie." And then she like showed her cleave, or what she believed was her cleave, because she's a child
Uh,
in
uh,
in the video. This is also coming from the perspective of someone who is past 25, who went to school with people who were 19
mhm.
to 22. So my tolerance for nonsense I know is different, but I saw that and I was like, it's not that Americans don't do wild things. You can't do that in a classroom. We'll get
Nah,
kicked
we would be
out.
No.
escorted out.
The teacher didn't
Oh my
see and they didn't care. Those kids were talking. Kids come to
Mhm.
class to sleep. The Japanese kids will just go to class and sleep. If you have a teacher who cares, yeah, they'll pick on you. But it was common for Japanese kids to go to sleep in class as long as they showed up, because apparently that was half the grade. And
Yeah.
it was just a system where I was like, I'm good. Like I don't belong here for school. Definitely not for
Mm.
school. The also the belief that you are at the mercy of your school is a belief that I don't vibe with, and my school learned quickly that I did not vibe with it. They
They
yeah.
did.
Without name dropping this school. Remember, I went to school in Saitama Prefecture. Figure that out if you want. It was when I went to this school. It started out decent, but as time went on, the school was very unaware that foreigners, especially Americans, do not put up with nonsense just because you're in charge. That's not a thing that
Mm.
we are accustomed to. Our country was
Mm.
founded on people dumping tea in the ocean because they were mad. Like that's
Yeah,
just been the
basically.
tone of this country since this country has been a country. So like
Yep.
we don't like people telling us that they are in charge of us and therefore can do things to us that are unsavory, which sounds
Yeah.
to me like a normal thing, but I understand in other countries that's kind of a, well, what are you gonna do? Complain is what I'm gonna do. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complaining was also a thing I learned. You don't do it in Japan. You definitely don't do it in school. We did it because we were not raised Japanese, so therefore we did not have that instilled in us to not complain when something was terrible. Um, there were times there was in the beginning there were like several orientations that they kept spreading out throughout the days, and
Mhm.
some of us just wanted to go into Tokyo to hang out, and we asked, is the study abroad and multicultural club orientation mandatory, because it wasn't about school, it was about extracurriculars. And the lady in the office
Okay.
looked at us and was like, you should go. And I remember saying, yes, but do I have to go? And she looked at me
Yeah.
and did not know how to answer and was like, "It would be good for you. I'm not joining any clubs. Is it mandatory?" Because on the list, it was not docked as mandatory. Then they got the one white woman that they had working in the office who was kind of the face for
Oh
foreigners.
boy.
It was the international office. She was like the face for the foreigners. She came out because, she's better with English and was like, "You have to go." We didn't go to anything and we didn't get in trouble because it was not mandatory and they didn't know how else to control us but to tell us we had to go when it was very clear we didn't have to go. So for those
Mm.
reasons, I don't think I could do a whole degree in Japan, just because I don't want to say I have trouble with authority. It's more like I'm not accustomed to authority that isn't also trying to make sure on some level that my satisfaction is met. Like, I'm not saying you got to please me in I'm not saying my school does that. My school does tons of things I hate. I do know if I walk in there though and demand an audience with whoever's in charge, I'm getting the audience because I paid to come here and we want to
Yeah.
make sure the agreement on both ends is met. Whereas at the Japanese school, it was kind of like, are you complaining? Are you
Mhm.
arguing with me? Yes. What? Like, I am, because this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's definitely not taken well here with even outside of university. But I just wanted to know because, like, I see a lot of foreigners go to university here, whether through exchange programs or just like moving here for a full term. And I hear a lot of what you're saying, actually. It's very common that is mainly attendance based. Also, the fact that sometimes if you do a full 4-year bachelor, it doesn't translate well with other countries, and some of the classes.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It that's something.
Mhm,
So I wasn't the first to say it among my group of friends, and I'm glad.
mhm.
There's a girl, one of her parents is Black American, one is Japanese, but she lives in Japan most of the time. She was telling us, because there were people who were trying to get their degree from Japan. She was like, if you're moving back to America, there's no reason to be here. If this like if you're doing study abroad, that's one thing. If you're trying to get your degree from here and you want to go back to America with it, I don't really know what you're gonna get.
But yeah, because I plan on being here for a while and I want to get back into my studies. And I have thought about it, but it's just not convincing me. I'm probably going to have to do some online grad school
Mm.
because I just don't want to spend a whole, season of learning and then
Yeah.
not translate when I go back to the States because I'm going to eventually go
For real.
back and I just don't want time wasted.
I think
Mm.
because you're living there, though, for a graduate degree, it will look
Mm.
different. Because my whole thing is to get your bachelor's out there. That's what I'd be stressed about. Because
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess the logic people run off of is you went straight from high school to who knows what. If you went straight from high school to America knows what, and then went to who knows where for some extra, we can take that extra. Especially because your graduate degree, it would be specialized in something, and to go
That's true.
elsewhere for that specialty
Mm.
looks, it's such a weird fetish. Ooh, here we go. Fetishization. It's what we do in America. It's like if your basis is American, but then you go elsewhere to get cultured on a deeper level, it's acceptable. So for
Mm.
bachelor's degrees, it's not the best idea, but for graduate degrees, depending on what you're picking, it is the best idea because
Mm.
like if you wanted to get it, if you're doing it in Japanese, if you're doing it in international relations, it's like, oh, you went to Japan and got cultured further, and it's like, yeah, I think maybe for international studies, that might be one of the few degrees where it doesn't matter where you go. If you went out of the country, it still looks good because it's international.
Mm.
But aside
All
from
right.
that, I think it's a little difficult.
Yeah. I could see that. I'll see because I have different ways I can go about my grad schooling. Because I did do philosophy
Yeah.
in bachelor's, and I wanted to do Eastern philosophy out here. And actually, before I even knew I was coming to Japan, that's what I wanted to do. And now that I'm here, I'm like, that's perfect. But I'm not sure if that's what I want to submit myself into yet.
Right,
Mm.
because it's a whole ass commitment, like,
Yeah.
and that's why I was asking because I'm so curious. Like, I went to a thing recently where we had like a bunch of like other ALTs there, and all of us were like, "So, what are we gonna do after this gig?" And a lot of us were like, "Uni, I don't know." So, I'm really curious to hear like other people's perspectives on like what what Japan has to offer. But I also did. I wanted to. That was actually a really good conversation. Hold up. But I wanted to kind of bring it all to something fun, something we can kind of
Yes.
just let loose and kind of talk shit about. Um, so we all love anime, right? Some less than others, some more than others. But the anime aesthetic, it like comes from Japan. We already know that, and it's kind of limited in representation and diversity. So I wanted to ask, everybody at the table, get y'all's opinions on Black and POC characters and how they're represented in anime. If y'all got any
Mm,
favorites, y'all got any notable examples, like how it was, how it is, and how y'all want to see it.
mm.
So first of all, the pink donut lips need to never happen again
They
Oh
need
my
to
god.
stop.
because it's been long enough that we know stop.
Yes.
Like I think the
It's
last show that I saw, I'm sorry, my dog just walked into my room and opened the
Dog
door
said,
like an
"Woo."
adult. Sidebar, my dog's name is Momotaro because I'm that person, but we just call him Momo.
Oh.
Hey Momo. I see you on Facebook, Momo.
Closes. He opened it like he paid rent. I think the last show I saw that had the noticeably large, well, maybe not even that large, the noticeable pink lips was Blood Plus. That is a throwback. It was,
That
it's
yes.
Yes.
the anime
Oh
where
my
the
god.
sisters,
Yeah, the sisters.
yeah, and they were, man, I need to rewatch it because it was actually pretty interesting. They were, I think the chiropteran is what the vampire race is called, and they're like bat people, but those two are queens, so they look like people. It's a good show if anyone has not seen it. But in the show,
Mm,
there was a man who worked with the evil sister, and he was black, and he looked regular, like he didn't look scary. He had they gave him that low patty. It looked regular. Everything was great. And then his lips
Yeah.
were just pastel pink, and I was like,
Oh, damn.
they weren't big either. Like they looked larger than maybe the Japanese people, but they didn't look cartoonish and scary. They just looked, I guess, relative to reality, decent size, but they were pastel pink, and I'm like, we almost had it. We almost had it. Like it just looked
You
Just
were so
almost
close.
so
Yeah.
close.
it was such an off color, but after that, I haven't seen it as much. Um, I think the women are treated better than the men for
Mhm.
sure. Black people specifically in anime.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say, like, there's definitely more. Well, there wasn't that much. It was kind of like ambiguity
yeah,
a little
Mm.
bit back in the day. Now it's a lot more like,
yeah.
oh, well, this is a black character.
Yeah.
Whole afros in the show, and that's what makes me happy. Whole 4C afros happen in anime now, and I'm
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
this is interesting.
It's
There's
definitely getting better.
it is, and I think there's also better diversity with Japanese characters or implied Japanese characters, and I think that's part of it. If you guys haven't
Mm.
seen My Love Story, listen, you need to see it. It's the cutest thing. It's this huge, they're all in high school, this huge boy likes this cute little girl, but then she likes him too, and there's like shenanigans ensue, and his best friend is like the conventionally attractive one, and but she likes
Mm.
him. He has huge donut lips. He's not a black boy. Well, he might be multiracial because you see his father. His father looks like the Japanese anime caricature of what they believe Brazilian people look like, but he's not ugly. He's
Oh,
just like tan and
Interesting.
swole, but he has kind of strong lips. So his son, because his son is half Japanese, and then whatever he is, he's like huge, but also has these big donut lips. And it's like, I don't know who designed this, but okay. But
that's. I mean, that's a choice.
it was a choice, but he's also a good protagonist. He's not a mean person. A lot of the
Mhm.
show, it was pretty like it was woke, I would say. For it came out in 2015.
Mhm.
Um, the show did anyway. It
Yeah.
was like he's huge, so he looks like that. He has those features, but that boy is still his best friend, and he has a bunch of other Japanese friends who are conventional Japanese looking boys, and they don't berate him for it. There are episodes where they talk about how he
Mhm.
grew up and people made fun of him or were afraid of him and treated him like he was a monster, but he didn't become a bad person. He forgave people, he accepted his friends were the love he needed, and he's a good character, and like everyone around him, it's very healthy. It promotes healthy body image, and I'm like, this is for Japan. This is kind of new. Like,
Yeah, that's important because, like, even if they are half children, like, Japanese people have big lips too. Japanese people are bigger too. Like, there's all diverse body
yeah.
types.
I wanted to bring up a couple ones that are controversial. Piccolo, is he black or not?
So there's a meme that I found years ago that accurately describes my answer to this, and it was an image, picture, if you will, just an open church of black people of all age and size with their hands up, smiling, happy, praising the Lord. And the caption says, when you don't know why, but in your heart of hearts, you know Piccolo is black. And I was like, yeah.
There we
And I
go.
shared it, and all my friends were like, yeah.
Yep.
I don't think I've
Yeah.
had any arguing. Anyone who's argued was just like, but he's green, but no one sat there and tried to suggest a different race. Nope.
Yeah.
Everyone's understanding from when you see the Namekians in Dragon Ball, it reminds me of India, is honestly where because of the way their clothes are and the way their houses are built.
Yeah,
It just
yeah, yeah.
reminds me of India,
Yeah.
and Frieza just looked like the one Englishman who showed up and was like,
Oh,
"I'm gonna
straight up.
teach you guys how not to exist peacefully," or some foolishness. But Piccolo
Pretty
himself,
much.
for no reason, I'm like, no, no, he is one of the Moorish people who traveled back and forth. For some reason, Piccolo himself, I don't know what it was, I don't know what it is. Piccolo's black, and Knuckles, the echidna, is black, except for Knuckles from Sonic Boom. Swole Chest
Okay.
Knuckles from Sonic
Okay.
Boom has officially been declared not black. He doesn't have any other assignment, but he's not black. Every other Knuckles, Pumpkin Hill Knuckles, that's a black man. I think it's because of Pumpkin Hill. But
I have one more real quick. I saw this one because I couldn't tell. So I found a list of Darcy and anime characters because I want to get into cosplay too. I looked this stuff up and I was like, let me see what my options are. And then one of the answers, well, Piccolo wasn't on there, but
We know.
we know. I had to know. Top number one popular was Yorishi, duh. Number two was Scar,
Sure.
and then I went
Number two
down
was
the
what?
list. Scar from Full Metal.
Oh, I never thought he was black. I thought he was also like Middle Eastern, so maybe multiracial, like in the area of the Middle East that would have had more interaction with North Africa.
For sure. And the list also didn't specify. This was like based off of skin tone. There's some ambiguity
Yeah.
here. But I also wanted to get y'all's opinion because I was scrolling down and I saw Brock. Now,
Oh gosh.
again, we're talking about black characters and POC characters. So I'm like, where does Brock fit into this? Because Scar, I could see like, maybe North African,
Yeah.
something like that. But Brock, what's y'all thoughts?
I don't I
I
don't think Brock is I think I used to when I was little because he was brown and no one else was brown, but after time, I don't think Brock is black.
at most he's half, but I don't
Maybe,
think.
okay.
I could see him being a brown man, seeing how he approaches women. He just sees a woman, he's like, I love you.
He becomes the Instagram DMer?
Yes.
Yes.
What was it? I saw a meme. Someone said, Lord, give me the confidence of random brown men in my DMs.
They are bold. They know who they are. They know what they want.
The know what they want is real. Every week I have to go through my Instagram requests, and by have to, I mean I'm a fool and I put myself through it because I could just delete everything. But the ignorance in me is like, no, someone in here is going to be positive. That's not always.
Right.
I think I could see maybe blackness within Brock because Brock is always ready to cook something.
That's
I
true.
think he would. I think so. Brock would be. He reminds me of maybe a Caribbean black boy because Caribbean
Okay.
culture heavily influenced by Indian culture and African culture. Little known things. There are lots of Indian people in the Caribbean. Trinidad is like half Indian. Um
Pretty much.
and so like there's like a crossover culture there. That's why curry is also in the Caribbean. So I think
Mm.
Brock might be a Caribbean black boy, maybe. Um I'm still tripping off the give me the strength.
Mm.
I love this topic. It was great. Now I want to kind of close it off with a little game. We're going to play a
Oh
game.
Lord.
Um would you rather? So I guess I'll moderate the questions. I'll go last. So I'm going to do Spiffy, Bree, and then me. We'll go in that
Okay.
order.
All right.
All right. So would you rather, right? Would you rather cosplay or model for only one character? Like that's all you can do. But the photos are bomb and the bag is present. It is readily available. It's a nice bag, right?
Hmm.
Or would you cosplay any character, but the photos are like potato quality and it's for free?
Oh.
So this is one forever. It's not one at a time. It's just one forever.
No. This is you. You are the mascot of this character now.
Oh gosh.
See, I'm trying to think of what character I'd ever want that to be. That's the thing.
I don't know. Like, okay, so for me, like while you're thinking, I would treat it like a job. So I wouldn't mind the first one. I just be like, that's just my job, whatever. Because if the bag is nice in this capitalist society, I'm sorry, that's yeah, that helps,
All right.
you know. Um, but because I'm not a cosplayer, like that's not my thing. I don't mind doing the indie character because that's fun. You can change it up, and it would just be a hobby.
All right. So what would you if you had to pick
Ugh.
one?
If I could get a bag, I'll do the first one.
All right. I
Ugh.
respect that. I respect that.
I think I'm gonna have to go full potato because
All right.
I
All right.
would lose my mind being any character for the 500th time after like watching
Uh,
Mm.
Friends, because that's largely what started it too. Was before everything took off and became like pro cosplay and like the kind of weird political way it is now. Cosplay was super underground, and the
right.
whole fun thing would be like all of our friends go to Walmart and get items to look like characters from Smash Brothers and just running
Yeah, I
around
can
in
see
Mm.
that.
conventions throwing beach balls painted like the Smash Ball and just having fun. And if I'm stuck being Amethyst from Steven Universe with all my money, my friends are out here being the Justice League or being like the Avengers crossover with Harry Potter, and I'm still Amethyst, I would lose it. I would not know what to do with myself.
Okay, I respect that. That's tough.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, I don't know what I would do. Like I wrote the question, but I really don't know. Cause like I don't cosplay, so I'm just like, would I do just one? But like, here's my thing. I don't know. All right, I'm very picky, but I think I would do. Dang, I didn't think about the negotiation. All right, if I can negotiate to where I can be a character model, but I don't have to like work for it. Like if I don't have to like work
Oh, that's
out or
true.
like, if I can show up as is, I might pick the first one. So I think I'll do the first one.
Yeah, because then there would be this pressure if you're like supposed to be like the mascot
Right, right,
If
person.
I
right, right,
could just
Then
be
right.
like, oh
myself,
yeah,
then
no.
maybe listen. If it wasn't a big deal and I was just me, maybe. As I get older, I wonder how many more times my friends will dress up as the crossover version of anything.
No, that's fair.
At this
That's
current
fair.
Mhm.
I
moment, I think
think
I'm still full potato. I think if you were to ask me in 2 more years, I would be fine committing to being like Elvira forever.
yeah, that's my
True.
main thing. If I can like do it for a while, I'd probably be a mascot cuz you just get into mascot mode. That's all
It's
good.
wild though. A
Mask
lot of
on,
the
whatever.
mascot a lot of the people who do like pro cosplay, it can be really tough because a lot of it's a relatively new thing. A lot of these companies don't know how to handle people. Someone was writing a whole thing about how they did an event for
Mm,
Blizzard and it just went left. They didn't get paid what they were supposed to get paid. Their
Mm.
props broke. The person, I don't know if you've ever seen
ooh,
Blizzard games. Those characters are wearing a lot. Most characters
No.
designed by Blizzard are either wearing nothing or they're wearing everything. And so he
mm,
he was wearing like an armored suit and all this crazy stuff. And it was just a lot. They have to pay handlers, they have to pay there's just a lot to do. So if you're not
Mm.
trying to be like high maintenance celebrity status every weekend, that's what being a pro cosplayer is.
Mm.
If you are a hired cosplayer, you don't get to tell people you're tired. You just have to stand there sweaty and let them take pictures with you
yeah.
until the event is done.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, Spiffy?
I felt like I had something. I was just thinking, and it's like slipping. So I listened
Mhm.
to the
Yeah.
episodes out of order, just kind of as my brain is ready for it. There was the interracial one I had to like sit down for one day, and I was like, I got to be in a headspace for this because if I hear things that make me think about things, I'll be stressed. It was a good episode. I've been thinking a lot about that topic. I feel like my question was somewhere in there.
Mhm.
Do you find it do you so when I was in Japan, I
Hmm.
had this burden that I felt in America, but I felt double hard in Japan. And it was the need to not come off like a weeb,
Mhm.
but to also not lie about being interested in these things. But it's heavy because you don't want to you know what I mean? You don't want to look like either one, but you don't want to look like neither. So in America, in the Japanese class I'm in, our teacher one day asked us, "Do you guys know what baka means?" Mind you, one boy in our class has a Naruto Ichiraku ramen shirt on. I have worn Dragon Ball shirts to class
Yeah.
3 times. Excuse me, everyone in this class, everybody in this class is a rotten weeb. But we're
Yeah.
in
Right.
college and none of us want to tell this grown Japanese woman any of that. So we just go, "No." We all lied to her face and went, "No, what's that?" And she explained, and we went, "That's crazy," knowing full well what baka means. But then also in other situations, when if you've ever been to a college campus in America, you go to the student lounge or student center or the place where everyone
Mhm.
hangs out, you are bound to bump into the kids who play Magic the Gathering or Vanguard and talk about anime and superheroes. And when you're in that setting, you don't want anyone to ask you anything because you don't want anyone who passes
Yeah.
Yeah.
by to be like, "Oh, is she talking to the weebs about that weeb net mess? Is she being a full weeb?" And then
Mm.
sometimes you meet
Mhm.
people who are also I call them formerly otakus, the reformed otaku squad.
Yeah.
People who used to be wild when they were in middle and high school, but then understood we have to have jobs and behave ourselves so we can go crazy, but we also peel it back. When you find people like that, you almost like you're waiting for them to say something so that you can go, "Oh," like that time in Yu Yu Hakusho, so you can just talk. No one wants to be that weeb.
Mm,
In Japan, it was worse. In Japan, because so many things, Japanese anime and
yeah.
manga are so well, beside the supernatural content, they are so much more what's the word I'm looking for? They are so much more real to genuine Japanese experience, or at least function like the function of Japan as a whole, than American cartoons and comics are for America. Probably because America's gigantic. So if you make something super authentic to Kansas, it is inaccurate for New York and for several places like that. Japan also has, the difference between rural and suburban and city, but because it's so much smaller, you can for real get on a train. I remember the first time I went to Japan, not this year, but last year, when I was on the train riding to different parts of Tokyo. I didn't even leave Tokyo, but I passed through places that were quiet and rural into places that were crazy, like Shibuya, and places that looked completely different. And I was like, this looks exactly like the ending theme to Inuyasha. And it did, because that's what it is. The art is based off of reality. Whereas in America, it's not that it's not based off reality, it's based off of like
Yeah.
Mhm.
what America wants to be everyone's reality. You know what I mean? It's like if you're trying to convey affluence, it looks like the Upper East Side of New York and everything else is not real. Or if you're trying to convey something down, it looks like the slums and suddenly everything in America is Gotham City. Versus in anime, it's like he might be sad, but this is still the J.R. Yamanote line. She might be having a good day, but Shibuya past 7 o'clock at night is not the same place. Like, do you have the burden of like, I want to love this but I don't want to seem crazy, because that's how I felt when I was there.
Mhm.
Mm.
That's a really good question. Dang.
Animal Crossing too, everything in Animal Crossing is Japan. Like down to the town songs at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. depending on your town.
I feel like the human in Animal Crossing.
Yes, I heard you say that in one episode and I was like, I identify heavily with this.
Yes, it literally feels like that. But okay, I would say I guess there would be a difference here, I guess, for weeb and otaku. So like if
Mm.
you're fish, which is it's not bad, whatever, like do you. But I think it doesn't translate well to Japanese people here. They kind of are like, wait, so you really are being like cartoonish about it, and they kind of are thrown off, especially if it's not in Harajuku or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And otaku of like their culture, it sometimes can benefit you when you're talking to them because they're like, wow, you really know about our culture.
Ah.
They like when you like their stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a distinction
Hmm.
between weeb and otaku because I've noticed that with weebs it's a one-sided kind of relationship
Yes.
where
Hmm.
it's almost like they have this idea of Japan and in their everyday life they meet that idea. So like
It's they're in love with the like their personal Japan and not necessarily Japan as is.
Yes, they like glorify Japan. And also sometimes like when they do visit Japan, not all weebs, but some weebs will like actually tell Japanese people that's not how Japan is. You see this a lot on Twitter. Like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
this is not how Japan people think, but then there's actual Japanese people being like, no, like we don't agree with this, you
Mhm.
know?
I think in
So
Japan I got corrected a lot more from know-it-all foreign classmates than I did from actual Japanese people.
I would say with yes, exactly. With other foreigners, being a weeb or an otaku does not translate well. If anything, it's like a competition. And if
Mm.
you like anime or you like, just the weebish stuff, they're like, ew. But it's not that like they don't like that. They just don't want to associate with that.
Mm.
Right.
But with other Japanese people, especially like in a non-school setting, they actually love that. They're like, "Wow, you love Japan."
Yeah. It's really
Mm.
interesting cuz I teach at a high school, so my kids are anywhere from like 14 to 18
Mhm.
depending on like when they were born and stuff. And I got permission to use my laptop to show presentations or show movies. It's not connected to Wi-Fi or anything like that, so it's literally plugged into a DisplayPort. But my laptop has like hella stickers. It's got like Godzilla, it's got like anime stuff, it's got Full Metal, like the kanji for Full Metal. So like sometimes, especially in the beginning of a year, my students will be like, "Oh, what are all these things?" Because like they're used to putting stickers on their stuff, but they see my laptop and they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
So in that sense, it's not even like that it's an otaku thing. It's more like oh, that's cool that you know this, and they
Yeah.
can like kind of relate.
Yeah.
But like, as apart from, you know, young children who are like in that pop culture sphere realm thing,
Yeah.
like with other adults or like even peers, it it really depends. It's kind of like the student center situation where it's like, you know, if that person is into Japan, they're here for like a reason. They like Japan, but it depends on why they're here. Did they
Mm.
like the realism? Did they like the nature? Or like, you know,
Mm.
I am kind of getting my toes wet again into the anime world. Like I'm rewatching Haikyuu. What was the other one I just finished? I finished something else and it was really
Have
good.
you
I
been
can't
watching My
remember.
Hero?
That's the one. I
And
gotta.
Demon Slayer.
Yes, and
Man,
Demon
I
Slayer.
have to watch
Oh
Demon Slayer since
god,
everyone's talking about it now.
it's
Girl, yes, please.
Tanjiro is the best boy. I don't buy things that often. I bought line stickers of Demon Slayer.
We need to have like an anime versus real Japan guest episode so we
Yes.
can
Ooh,
dig
that would be
into
good.
that like cultural.
I like that.
Yes.
But that's interesting. I see what you mean though. It depends on the Japanese people versus other foreigners versus older versus that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. At most, I'd say just be yourself
Mhm.
regardless and just be teachable. And if it's about their culture, let them voice that first because, like, you're not Japanese,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. My last thing, it wasn't a question, it was more just a
Mm.
comment. I really like the podcast and I like what you guys are doing because I definitely think it's giving people a cool insight on Japan and living in Japan, but not being Japanese. The one thing that I will say that stuck with me in Japan that I like to tell everyone, especially other women that want to go to Japan, is while the culture might not entirely foster speaking up when something happens, especially when it happens to women, I was told by
Mhm.
other Japanese people, mainly women, please don't stop saying anything
Yeah.
because the whole reason it is changing, it's changing very slowly, but the only reason why it's changing is because there are women or other people who are not, we will say, the top group. They are complaining. I have had other people, even in YouTube comments on other people's videos, who are like, why are you complaining? You know, since you follow their culture, their rules. I'm like, no, because you're making it sound like it's rice, where everyone agrees on rice, versus something where half the population is not enjoying what is happening. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and side with the half that happens to be in charge. I'm not saying go anywhere and shake everything up and decide that, your Western view is what matters in Japan.
Yeah. And if anything, I kind of see it as we kind of help people in a sense of giving them strength to speak up because sometimes they just need someone to believe in them. It's not necessarily making them behave a certain way or like, hey, you need to stop acting this way. It's more like, hey, we believe you. And I just think they don't get enough of that in their own culture, especially with like Japanese women and like assaults and stuff like that. It does help when we believe them and we stick up for them. And yeah, but thank you for liking the podcast. It's
Yeah. That means
on.
a lot.
Yeah, that's really sweet. But yeah, thanks for being a great guest, Spiffy. Like honestly, I love talking to you. You can talk about anything, and I love that. If you want to find Spiffy, her tags and links will be in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope y'all liked the episode. I had a good time. You know, if you have anything to add to the conversation, comment on our episode 20 Instagram post. But yeah, we're at Abnormal Japan on Instagram and pretty much everything else. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and thanks for joining us, Spiffy. It was a great having you here. Hope y'all enjoyed listening to our guest and our discussion. Our episode collection is building up, so if you want to hear us ramble on some more, check out our other podcast episodes. We cover various topics like true crime, LGBT+, and life in Japan.
Yeah, and we make videos too. Head over to our YouTube channel for snack talks, reactions, reviews, vlogs, and more. One of our recent videos actually was 5 Japanese urban legends. It's pretty spooky. It's got some visuals, so if you're into that, check out our channel. And to support the podcast, become a patron on patreon.com/abnormaljapan. Or just leave us a review and rating on the app you're using. Follow us on the apps. Share your favorite episode on your socials. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We out here, Abnormal Japan, everything.
Yes, if you want to take part in a future episode, send in some questions about relationships, love advice, marriage, sexuality, anything in that realm. Check the link below in the show notes to send something anonymously. As always, we appreciate everyone who tuned in. Look out for another episode next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.